So, what were you doing in 1984? Dancing at your local disco to Michael Jackson and Madonna, perhaps? Standing in support and rallying as the miners' strikes got underway? Cheering John McEnroe as he defeated Jimmy Connors to win Wimbledon? Or maybe like me, you were a very little girl who was floating around her lounge pretending to be Torval and Dean as they skated the Bolero and took the Winter Olympics in Sarajevo by storm. Or maybe you were enjoying the host of excellent films that premiered that year. If your choice of genre is adventure, then perhaps it was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom or Romancing the Stone. Maybe a more musical flavour took your fancy, say Footloose or the more highbrow Amadeus. But what if you prefer a touch of horror? Well, there was everything from The Terminator to A Nightmare on Elm Street. But let's narrow it down even more. Let's consider the horror comedies that were offered up. Ghostbusters, Gremlins, staple favourites on everyone's Christmas viewing lists, generating sweet reminiscence. I wonder if a certain horror comedy about the end of the world, piles of red dust, and a sky so pink it would have every little girl of 2015 jumping for joy, was on your list of must-see movies for that year. Well, if you missed it the first time around, then you could do worse than to obtain a DVD copy of Thom Eberhardt's Night of the Comet. It's wacky and it's wonderful, and surprisingly overlooked by many regular filmgoers, although the connoisseurs of this genre will undoubtedly be able to wax lyrical about its endearing qualities. Night of the Comet is exactly the sort of film that cult classic was created for, known by few, but loved by them dearly. The plot is unoriginal, granted. The Earth is about to experience the passing of a comet. The last time it paid a visit coincided with the demise of the dinosaurs. There should perhaps have been a warning in there somewhere. But crowds gather outside and party in the streets to witness its transition. 18-year-old Regina, known as Reggie, played by Catherine Mary Stewart, works at a movie theatre and is obsessed with playing an arcade game in the foyer. She becomes furious to discover a random player with the initials DMK has made it onto the high scores board, all the other scores being hers. She decides to stay after work to regain her monopoly.
This is really annoying.
Regina, look this way. Regina, look at me. Read my lips. Flashlight. Walk. House. Now.
Okay, man. Let me take this for you.
That's great. They go to profits. And listen, stay out of the projection booth and stay away from Dupree. You know, fire that guy someday.
Rather than join the populace outside to watch the comet, she spends the night in the projection room, steel-lined as it happens, with the projectionist. Meanwhile at home, Reggie's sister, the blonde and bubbly 16-year-old cheerleader Samantha, the dream casting of Kelli Maroney, argues with her stepmum about the latter's new boyfriend. If you needed confirmation that this film is a comedy, then just take a look at this little scene.
Now, are you going to join the party?
Join the party for what, Doris? So I can watch Chuck from across the street stick his hands down your pants? I think that's something Daddy should know.
Chuck's a nice guy. He's certainly nice to be with while Daddy's down in Banana Land.
You were born with an asshole, Doris. You don't need Chuck.
Looks like a real nice crowd we have out here tonight.
This is the Big K in Los Angeles. A great-looking morning in Southern California. 50,000 watts of coil steel and passion FM in the AM. It's wake-up time in the City of Angels, and I'm Steve LeBeau.
Awaking the next day, Reggie ventures out and discovers a world devoid of people. For LA, this is somewhat alarming, not to mention the vivid pink haze that was once a sunny Californian sky. Although, other than a rather puzzled expression, she takes it all in her very leggy stride. Her unexpected meeting with a zombie, who moments before, unbeknown to Reggie, has made off with the bludgeoned projectionist, renders her a little bit more perturbed, but she jumps on her motorbike and heads home. Here she finds Samantha, who spent the night in a tin shed after the argument with her stepmum. It appears Reggie was taking in her surroundings more than she let on, and she drives home to Samantha what has happened. Everyone is dead.
Peterson isn't, is he?
Everybody is dead, Dave.
Not Chen.
Gordon Bennett, yes, Chen, everybody. Everybody's dead, Dave.
Rimmer.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Wait. Are you trying to tell me everybody's dead?
Turned into nothing more than piles of red dust, including the poor old family dog. Anyone notice the movie poster for Red Dust in the projection room? Hearing a DJ on the local radio station, they head to the station only to discover that the transmission is a recording.
I mean, somebody has to run this stuff, don't they?
We got trouble, not us. That's the name of the song, and I'm Steve LeBeau, trapped inside your radio, the guy who really cares about you.
However, they do encounter Hector, a truck driver who spent the night in the back of his steel vehicle. His companion, and reason he was fortuitously in the back of the truck, was eaten by zombies. Samantha enjoys some free-rein time in the radio station and talks on air to an empty world, stating that she's
Taking requests from all you teenage Comet zombies on the hit line.
a nice little line, as this was the working title of the film.
Get it?
Although not so empty a world. Her show is listened to by a team of scientists holed up in an underground bunker in the obligatory desert. They listen in as the three debate their next move. The scientists also debate what they should do with the survivors. They acknowledge that although the effects are slower to manifest in those who did not experience direct contact with the comet, all those exposed will eventually become zombies before turning into piles of red dust.
Fluids.
Oh, get to the point, Oscar. We've heard this 1,000 times.
Ultimately.
What about the dust?
Ultimately, there is nothing left but calcium dust.
Right. So there isn't even enough hope to warrant bringing anybody back here.
So what you're saying is we shouldn't even try.
Right.
Back at the radio station, Hector, promising to return, leaves to return home to discover if any of his family have survived. To kill time while he's gone, the girls go shopping, all to the soundtrack of Girls Just Wanna Have Fun. What else? Until, that is, they're captured by zombie stock boys, who look like wannabe Blues Brothers. A gunfight worthy of a Wild West film breaks out between the two parties, but the stiletto-clad girls are eventually overpowered. Not so degenerated yet, the zombies are able to hold coherent conversation, just long enough, luckily, for the girls to be rescued by the scientists. Reggie is choppered to their base, while depressive scientist Audrey, a perfectly morose Mary Warrenoff, remains. She unexpectedly shoots the other remaining scientist and appears to euthanize Samantha, due to Sam's more dramatic exposure and dire prognosis. Hector returns to find Audrey preparing her own arm for injection. She explains the situation to him and then promptly euthanizes herself. Incidentally, Mary Warrenoff wrote every line of her dialogue for this scene.
Hey, you know what? She was right. You are cute. Santa Claus.
Back at the installation, we now learn that the scientists had prepared for the passage of the deadly comet and predicted its lethal effects. However, wait for it, they forgot to close a ventilation shaft. Suspicious of the sunglasses-wearing researchers, Reggie attempts to escape the unit. In doing so, she discovers that the scientists have been draining the blood of healthy, unaffected people, keeping them as brain-dead vegetables in order to do so. The aim, to work on a cure for themselves.
My parents told me never to breathe anything from strangers.
Hey! Get your hands up. What are you guys doing?
They said if we breathe this, we could go to the North Pole and see Santa Claus.
That's so sick. In the nick of time, as the scientists begin their descent into zombie manifestation, Hector and Samantha arrive to whisk them all away. Back in LA, the sky is now blue. A recent rainstorm has washed the red dust into the sewers, and life is green and verdant once again. Reggie and Hector are together, caring for the two children, and Samantha is feeling a little like the proverbial gooseberry.
Maybe I could be a nun or something.
It should be noted that none of them are ever going to degenerate into zombies. About to jaywalk, Reggie remonstrates Sam for it, which she ignores and steps out into the deserted road, at which point a sports car races round the corner and nearly knocks her down. The driver is a teenager.
Hey, you guys are survivors too, huh? What?
Nothing.
We don't know anything about this guy. Where's he from? What's his name?
What's your name?
Danny Mason Keener.
Danny Mason Keener, okay?
DMK. Well, Thom Eberhardt was questioned relentlessly through filming about DMK, so he kind of felt obliged to put that little twist in at the end. However, when Sam says,
"Great car,"
and he replies,
"Thanks, I have 23 of them. You want to go for a ride?"
he implies he's stolen all of them since the end of the world, meaning it's not his car. So it's just coincidence that his name is the same initials as the vanity plate? Or he's got a DMK plate and put it on the car he stole? Maybe that's a mystery we'll never truly know the answer to. And there you have it. That's it. I did say it wasn't a very original end-of-the-world premise, but the execution is a very stylish pastiche of sci-fi elements. It knows exactly what it is and what it's trying to achieve, and doesn't take itself seriously for a single frame. In its objective, it's entirely successful. Yes, it's low budget. Differing sources place the budget at anything between $700,000 and $3 million, but it spends the money exactly where it needs to. Short skirts, hairspray, and the odd recognisable landmark. It's no Armageddon, and it's so much the better for it. But it's not trying to be Armageddon. It isn't trying to be like any other film. One only has to witness that, despite the end of the world having recently occurred, girls just want to have fun. So in this respect, it's a very original film. And if you look hard enough, then appreciation for this fun and cheeky romp is out there. In 2009, it earned a ranking in Bloody Disgusting's top 10 doomsday horror films, and it ranks higher than most blockbusters on Rotten Tomatoes. In fact, Joss Whedon has stated that this film was a huge inspiration to him when he wrote Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So why was it not as successful as other low-budget B-movies that were made at the time? While following formula in many respects, leaving the teenagers to fend for themselves against an enemy that the adults probably wouldn't believe in anyway, Night of the Comet twists many of the stereotypes and traditions to make the film feel slightly off-kilter. A female lead is by no means a rarity, even in the 1980s, and especially not in horror. But unlike Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, Reggie's not a victim nor a damsel. In fact, she's unlike most female characters in horror films as far as she's not a virgin and definitely not a prude. She's happy to sleep with a guy she's not dating because, well, why not? She's also a bit of a game geek, obsessing with the top scores on the arcade game in the cinema she works at, especially when DMK somehow gets that number 6 position. In fact, Reggie could have been a male character, but along with her sister, they're a very rounded pair, with issues and character traits that are both genuine and develop their relationship. Her sister Sam is the more traditional Valley Girl airhead, but she lives in Reggie's shadow, especially when it comes to boys, though Reggie doesn't seem to be that bothered about chasing guys and being cool or popular. Their relationship is also the instigator for much of the film's humour, which is at times misplaced or badly handled, but what is, to the film's credit, is how the two of them don't go on and on about their love lives non-stop. The film passes the Bechdel test at a time when many of the biggest films failed to. Reggie is probably one of the most realistic teen characters of the 80s, especially in a horror film. The only substantial male character, played by Star Trek Voyager's Robert Beltran, doesn't win Reggie over and doesn't really end up with a girl at the end, in any significant way at least. The film is also noted to be one of the first to carry the PG-13 rating. which would make it perfect for that large audience base who want a mature film but are too young for the R-rated films. It is true that the powerhouses of the movie business were game-changing the industry and sending the B-movie genre into a rapid decline at this time. But even so, some films made it out and became success stories. Horror was the foremost category to keep its head above the rising water though, so Night of the Comet had serious competition to stand out. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and the aforementioned Elm Street debuted the same year. A Nightmare on Elm Street also had a strong female lead, yet its darker and much more graphic violence pushed it well into the horror realm. Night of the Comet feels more like Gremlins, which also came out the same year, but with a budget nearly 20 times larger. The interiors look and feel the same, both being set at Christmas and having an eerie red and green glow from the festive lights. The scene where Hector goes to his family home is so reminiscent of Gremlins, I was half expecting one of them to pop out of the fireplace. The film is very 80s as well, but that doesn't explain its relative failure at the box office, as it embraces it very well. Especially the dancing in the mall scene, which you can't help but feel you know if you've seen Mannequin. The radio station is an amazing tribute to the 1980s in look, feel and attitude. The pink, neon and blue, it's dated but so retro now that it's enjoyable. The shopping mall is similar, especially when the gang show up. But at the same time, they reach the research facility, the style and quality has run out. Along with the budget, I suspect. The film feels almost like a 1960s movie at times.
Terminated brain functions. I mean, they're brain dead. All they can do now is manufacture blood.
Well, maybe. But we aren't going to get anything like 300 cc's out of those children.
No, but we will out of that teenager. I hope she's as healthy as she looks. Boy, did you see her hair? What I'd give to have hair like that.
What Night of the Comet seems to do is to just come up short in some aspects. Not hugely, but enough that it adds up to be a fun, but not overly memorable film. If you do go back and watch it now, you'll feel you've seen it all before, even if some of the films you think it's ripping off came after. But there's touches of The Warriors, Escape from New York, and of course, Night of the Living Dead. But what this is 95 minutes of wacky fun, unadulterated 1980s and stylish comedy, all wrapped up in a delightful bubble of bright colour. Colour in every sense of the word. When it came to writing this film, Thom Eberhardt asked teenagers what they would do if they found they had survived the apocalypse. And watching Night of the Comet, that gives one some pretty good ideas for when that day does come.